Hi, good morning. It's Mark Owen from Moose Market PR, the editor of Punchline magazine. Welcome to Punchline Talks. Today, we've got a fantastic panel joining us to talk about their business sector, hopefully their business news, and also what's caught their eye in this week's Punchline. Today, we've got Patrick Downs, the Managing Director of Trust in Property, Serena Gay MD of Made For You Podcasting, Cathryn Hage from Pentacom Agency, and my good friend and ex-newspaper editor, Sam Holliday, Federation of Small Business Regional Manager. Welcome, guys. Thanks ever so much for joining us today. Right, let's start with you, Sam. What have we got in the local newspapers?
Well, Mark, you may have thought that because, this is about business and it's about Gloucestershire, we wouldn't be talking about the biggest story of the week, but we have to. And that's obviously the royal story, covered everywhere again today. But the reason it's relevant to Gloucestershire, the reason it's relevant to businesses, well, for a start, this is the royal county. If you live in Gloucestershire, you're never more than about 20 miles away from a royal. It's important here. But do you know what is important about this story? It's because no matter what you think, whether you're, dare I say, Team Meghan or Team Royal, the royal family has a massive impact on tourism to this country. You only have to go to places like the Cotswolds and other parts of Gloucestershire to realise how much the people come to this country. And one of the main draws is the fact that we've got this royal family. And the reason that's relevant is this week, following the television show that we all know about, there was a snap poll in America which showed that 75% of Americans were, dare I say it, Team Meghan, whereas in this country it was completely flipped. We back the royals, but over there it's Team Meghan, and that's relevant, I think, because those American people are those that we like to see. I talk to hoteliers all the time who are thinking about what's going to happen when we come out of lockdown. And the one thing they're most nervous about is not the increase in staycations. They're looking forward to that. It's how slowly we will see some of them foreign tourists come back. And anything that damages Britain PLC is damaging to Britain. And I think that was very evident. There was a lot of American commentary about this and very negative about Britain, about the British royal family. And so a story that may seem a bit soap opera-y is actually having an impact. And I use the word soap opera as well, because one of the best television programs I think has been made in the past few years is The Crown. I love The Crown. It's a wonderful piece of television, but it is fiction. But if you're an American, dare I say it, and I will keep calling them American, I've got American families, so I'm allowed, they will turn around and they will say, well, it wasn't awful how Prince Charles treated Diana. Or now I can see what's happening with Meghan. And fact and fiction are beginning to blend. And the impact of that is it's going to have a damaging effect on tourism in this country. So although it may seem a story where you may think, oh, I'm fed up of all this monarchy story, do you know what? It could have an effect on our businesses, and that's what we're all concerned about.
I couldn't agree with you more, Sam. It could have a just massive effect, and we'll be watching it down the tracks. Serena, I'd like to go to you next. Thanks, Sam. Serena, what have you picked out for us today, please?
Well, actually, I do have some local stories that I've picked out, but I also have some national ones. So which am I going to be allowed to go with first?
Go whichever ones you want.
Well, okay, I will then. In that case, I will go with the biobank story, because it just so happens that I talked to the leader of the biobank earlier this week for a different project, and the story is about how it's setting out on a project to reveal the health legacy that is going to be left behind as a result of COVID. And so this is another great first, I think, for this country, having been so behind in many other ways at the start of the pandemic. It's really great that we are going to be leading in terms of looking at the effects of COVID, long tail COVID, that is, and how it's actually going to affect our future health. And what is so fascinating about the UK Biobank is that it actually started collecting data on patients in 2006, and with the express permission of the people who donated their information to the bank, they've been able to collect all this and study it. And they have collected, I think it is something like 1,500 people out of the 500,000 who are in their banks, who had COVID and who continue to suffer. And they're able to look at their scans from years before and compare them with their scans post-COVID to see how the various different organs in their body were affected. And to me, this is completely fascinating that we've got this information already and that we can use it now to help us do this research. So to me, this was a really important story, so much more important than a great deal else that's been going on this week and that Sam just been talking about. So that's what caught my eye this morning was British scientific research, actually at the helm, leading the world and coming up with really useful results.
Okay, great stuff. Yeah, and it really is, isn't it? It's actually fantastic what they've done with this rollout. I don't know about you, but I've been fortunate enough to have the jab, unfortunately enough to have COVID, and goodness knows what the long-term effects for all of us might be for that. Patrick, hi there. Welcome to Punchline Talks. Really great to have you on the show for the first time. So what's taking your fancy in today's national newspapers?
Well, a few quickies, if that's okay, Mark. Good morning, everybody. The first one I noticed in the business pages was the Morrisons article regarding their profits, and they've had a huge slump in profits during COVID. So that's quite unusual because the turnover, in fact, was way up, huge turnover increase. And of course, one of the key issues there was huge extra staffing. But what really caught my eye on this was that the extra costs they've had of 290 million during the year, they of course gave back 230 million of rates, business rates. So they had rates relief, but they said, no, we want to pay this. So actually, if you put the rates back in, or relief, then it would look pretty even. Bar £50 million, a big difference, I suppose. But that is interesting, the way rating, how it's influenced a lot of businesses. Quite rightly, I think the supermarkets gave it back because their sales have been so high. I think what really also catches my eye there is what is going to happen now. Are we going to sort of pull away from supermarket buying? Are we going to be frightened about that environment? And also the out-of-town retail, how does it impact that? When, in fact, maybe looking at the inner towns and the inner cities, perhaps we should be putting more of these supermarkets back into the town centres to help regenerate that. So I think there's a big thing ahead on the supermarket side. And certainly that might well bounce back. Or we go for the town centres. I also pick up, just as a follow-on from that, some really interesting results actually from Savills, which were put in the press yesterday and in the papers this morning. They actually have had a good year, but not because of commercial property activity. Commercial property clearly has been a lot quieter. We've had to deal with a lot of landlord-tenant issues. And of course, that more often than not has not necessarily contributed to bottom line fees for consultancy businesses. But overall, they've actually seen a 33% increase, a 33% decrease in their profit and their turnover. Whereas in fact, their the residential sales, because of stamp duty, is up 29%. So there's a lot going on with the property markets. And there's a bit of big uncertainty around the commercial side, future use, what do we want? But on the resi side, it's just buoyant. There's no doubt about it.
It's funny. That you brought those two stories up. Sorry, Patrick. It's funny that you brought those two stories up. It's a big piece in the Sun today about John Lewis. We're on about John Lewis figures will come out very shortly. Looks like they're going to close more stores. There's a big question mark hanging over Cheltenham, which we're all obviously very worried about. But the thing about this is they're on about John Lewis is doing smaller stores. But what really caught my eye this week, and hopefully you guys might think about it or talk about it as well, is about Amazon. And Amazon have just launched their first store in London, and it's got no staff and no checkout. Sorry. How do you see that panning out?
That was my next quickie, actually. Really nice article, actually, from a chap. This is a bit of editorial in the Times, Satnam Sangera. Now, what he's saying is the opening of Amazon Fresh. But the article here is very interesting because you can shop, of course, without any human interaction whatsoever. Okay, and therefore there's this criticism going on now with retailers that we're into social isolation even when we go shopping, and I think this is a really interesting thought relative to offices And everybody thinks we're all going to retract from having offices and we're all going to stay at home and we're all going to have Zoom meetings like this one and it's going to be marvelous. I don't think it is. And I don't think it's what we want. I think we want to get back to that office. We're going to have short memories and we're going to get back soon. And I actually sense this is happening already. People are spotting the 12th of April, the 19th of May, and they're starting to think, right, how are we going to get back into these offices? And I think, you know, we will actually be quite surprised in the office markets.
I'd like to come back to that. I'm just quickly going to go around you guys individually, just ask you about Amazon Fresh. Kat, very quickly, because I'm going to come back to you anyway, but what do you think, Amazon Fresh? Do you see that story? Do you think it was—
I did, and I posted online about it on all the social media platforms, and I had mixed responses to my posts saying great or horror. You know, it was real Marmite type of story, really. You know, if you dig down into the detail, it's pushing Prime, because you have to be a Prime member to for it to, you know, the algorithms to suss out what you're buying. So it is driving revenue into the Amazon Prime basket. And, you know, this faceless, staffless environment, very sterile. You know, it doesn't take long to do your shopping. So why they want to remove tills and humans to speed up that process, I'm not quite sure. And it's just putting more dollars into the Amazon bucket. And I think, you know, the question over Amazon and taxation and all of that, it just builds this bigger— I mean, they're a fantastic organization. They're doing very well. They get you things tomorrow by 2 p.m. They can't be faulted for their logistics. And they're a fantastic company. But whether we want an empty store to shop remains to be seen by the public, and they will vote with their feet.
I think Patrick's point about mental, you know, about being lonely and things is a real big thing, because obviously the mental health issues. But if you think about the elderly, you know, sometimes these are the only conversations that they have with people in a shop. You know, that interconnection. Of course, the beauty of the old corner shop was that you knew everybody and they knew you, same as the local pub. When I used to live in Barry Island, I hate to say it, the publican knew what I'd have to drink. You know, not I'm a big alky or anything, but anyway, just quickly, Serena, what do you think? Amazon?
Well, I would actually argue that shopping is a pretty sterile pastime anyway. I mean, most of us go into a supermarket, rush around, and maybe even go to the self-checkout area. So we don't choose necessarily to talk and interact when we go shopping. And I think this is just one more logical step in that direction. And personally, I think it's great. I hate queuing up. I don't talk to anybody in the queue, never have done. So for me, you know, being able to whiz in and whiz out of a shop is just one more mark of, you know, the way our society is going, and in a good way, to make our lives easier and quicker. I know that may be a slightly controversial point to say, but yes, no, I'm looking forward to it, and I hope the other supermarkets introduce it too.
But it might be that, not being funny, you're a bit like me. We talk to people all the time. So sometimes when you're outside, you don't want to talk to anybody. I network. I used to network all the time. So when I used to go on a train or a plane, do you know what? I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm fed up with talking to people. Sam, very quickly.
No, I can see everyone's point of view on this, but I mean, I worried about it. In fact, I didn't actually believe it till I actually saw the film of it. I read about it first and I thought, what? How does that work? And then I saw the film of it. I thought, that's how it works. I felt a bit sad, and I'm sort of somewhere between Cathryn and Serena on this. There's times I'll go into the supermarket, I'm in a rush, I'll use a self-checkout. But the worst thing, I think, is when you've got a self-checkout there and you've got a person serving with nobody in front of them and people use the self-checkout. I do think we need some human contact in our life, and I really do. And I think it's very, very sad. And the one thing I'll say about Amazon is I suspect, and I'm going to be the first to say it, nobody bangs the drum more for supporting independent stores more, but I use Amazon, and the amount of guilt I sometimes feel, and because Amazon has got a very unique model. They're the only company that will actually send you something and lose money on it. I received the other day something from my little fish tank that cost £5. It arrived within 24 hours. There is no way that Amazon made any money by getting me that £5 item there the day after. But in my mind, I'm thinking I can get it the day after. And I know the way that works. So I'm probably like everyone, a little bit of a hypocrite when it comes to Amazon. They're too big, but they are very valuable. But no, I'm not quite ready for Amazon Fresh yet.
I had a really good interview with Alex Chalkwell about Amazon and Google and Facebook. And I don't know if you guys saw that. It's a couple of weeks ago. I posted on it. get a chance to watch that. He's got some really, really interesting views. Anyway, thanks very much for that, guys. Kat, sorry about keeping you sort of treading water there on your news stories. What have you got for us today?
Well, I think you've already mentioned it, and it's the John Lewis story of the painful store closures from their chairman, Sharon White. Last year, they announced 8 closures from their 42 stores, and today they've announced a few more. They haven't said how many and they haven't said when, but they're going to be reviewing all their stores. And it is quite interesting because in 2019, their profits were 146 million up, and in 2020, a loss of 517 million. Now that's that's different from the Waitrose thriving food store side of things, but it's what will happen to our Cheltenham store, which opened October 2018. I mean, that's a fantastic flagship store, and what I found sad when we opened our Cheltenham store is that they took a lot of the product lines out of Waitrose, and they're talking now about putting some of the product lines back into Waitrose, because where the Waitrose food stores are located. So that's an interesting about turn. But before the pandemic, they calculated that £6 in every 10 were driven by, the online shop pushing, being pushed by, the shops pushing the online sales. Now that's just £3 in 10. So that's an interesting drop, isn't it? But I think, what's interesting, if you look at the health of the high street, and this is where it leads me, what about Debenhams in Gloucester? It really is a concern for everybody. And David Jones, they did a fantastic feature on the health of the high street, particularly in Cheltenham and Gloucester, and how they felt that Gloucester was, how Gloucester was pivoting perhaps a little bit better than Cheltenham. But if you look at Next as a retail model, they've got it bang on. I mean, I'm not saying that you like Next fashion or anything, but in terms of a business, their stores are their lookbooks, and slowly, their online business has overtaken their retail revenue. And now 50% is online and 30% is retail, but they still keep their stores because that's where their shop window is that drives the online engagement. So that's quite an interesting model there.
Just very quickly, I don't know if you saw it yesterday, we ran a story about Marks and Spencer's and how they're introducing 8 new brands to Marks and Spencer's, and that sort of rang the alarm bells. But let's be honest, Marks and Spencer's haven't been successful with their fashion for quite some time. So now they're going to have jewels in there. They'll have Jaeger. They'll have Phase 8, a whole host of different brands. Just
like Next.
Just like Next have done. So I can see how that works. Okay, guys, we're kind of rushing through lots of things. And I do want to talk to you about your own individual sectors and your own individual businesses as well. Serena, I'm going to come to you next. Thanks, Kat. I'm going to come to you next. So Serena, tell us a little bit about your business, please. I don't know very much about you. It's Made For You podcast. Sorry. I do know lots more about you, but the audience might not. Can you tell us about your company and how it's fared throughout the pandemic?
So I'm a BBC trained journalist by background. So broadcasting is my thing. And I launched in 2018, I launched Made For You podcasts. So my raison d'etre is to help companies and organizations produce their own podcasts, launch and produce their own podcasts to reach a new stream of clients, because there's nothing like being able to access audio information and entertainment at any time of your day, when no matter what you're doing, that releases you, in a sense, from a screen. So you're not having to read a blog, you're not having to watch a video. So I felt that podcasting was the way forward, and I think that it really is. I think we've seen that it's gathering incredible interest and popularity. So that's my sort of story in a nutshell. And I think perhaps I can report on a recent success, because I'm very proud of it, which is a client of mine is a non-profit making organization. We recently launched in December a podcast for them, and they deal, this organization, with helping parents of deeply traumatized children. So perhaps children that were taken away from their families, their birth parents, for abuse and neglect reasons, and adopted and fostered and looked after. And anyway, this is a very niche podcast. It only appeals to a very tiny slice of people. But within 11 episodes, we've managed to get over 40,000 downloads, wow. which is a real sort of indication of how effective a podcast to a niche audience is. And in this context, really badly needed during a lockdown when people, feel isolated, they can't send their kids to school, they're stuck at home, they've got troubled children who have got behavioural difficulties. So anyway, so that's that's a big success that I would sort of feel I can show off about. But that is really, I think, the way podcasting is going. Finally, in the UK, for a long time, podcasting was deemed, I think, to be something that they did in America. And now companies and organizations and individuals are really getting into it. So that's good news for me. But at the beginning of 2020, when the pandemic struck, it did kind of bring to a halt all the plans that I put in place. So I pivoted and started to look at launching a digital course online teaching podcasting skills to individual business people, some SMEs and so forth, who want to do it themselves. And that's still yet to take off, but it's sort of bubbling up and it's in the works, so to speak.
Well, I've listened to quite a few of them and they're absolutely fantastic. So
thank you.
Right, I'm going to, unfortunately, the time just goes so fast in these shows. So I could talk to you forever about it, and I would love to know the top 3 tips, but we'll have to do that for another show. Patrick, congratulations, by the way, because you've just launched a new business, Trust in Property. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in the middle of a pandemic, I suppose it was an odd thing to do in many ways, but I'd been sort of through many years in property locally, but I felt it was time that I did my own thing. And I thought there were a lot of buzzwords always in consultancy work, the words of working together and added value and trust and practical work, and you just think at the end of the day, I really want to put this into a lot more action than necessarily you do in bigger practices. So I came out and created Trust in Property, very much geared towards a non-executive type of function, a property director role, whether that's on an ongoing basis with clients or project-based, just one-off projects a year or two, or for that matter, a fixed-term replacement for a property director in a business. But the key aim for me is treating property as a practical asset. It takes time and it does take trust. And unless you're close to clients and constantly working with them within their business and within their team, I think it's actually quite difficult to really do it full justice for clients. So that's the key aim, really, is to get close to them, work with them and create that great relationship, which all too often these days we don't have time to do.
Very quickly, will the commercial property sector, it's done extremely well, especially the logistics side of things, hasn't it? But will the commercial offices come back? Can you see us all returning to the office?
Yes, I can actually. I use the phrase, we have short memories as human beings. And secondly, we need that social interaction. I think they'll look very different in 2 years' time. I think we will change the office function and how it looks and feels and how we use it. But I do think it'll bounce very much back, and there's already signs of that. But it will take some sort of realization that goes on, particularly during the summer months. It's not there tomorrow morning, but it will come back, in my opinion.
Well, the high street needs it desperately, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we got some great ideas for the high street. We're just going to get on with them now.
Kat, I'm going to turn to you. Thank you ever so much, Patrick. Kat, your own business, obviously you wear lots and lots of different hats. I know you for your fantastic work with Pied Piper. You run your own PR agency as well. And how's that been for you over the last couple of months?
You can see some hope coming, Mark, definitely. I mean, obviously, businesses, B2B clients, they're looking at bringing their staff back into the business, furlough, filling those offices, as Patrick says. And, many offices are replanning to bring their staff back in. So with that comes hope and with that comes business. So things have been very busy or certainly the pipeline is getting very busy. And water coolers, who are one of my main clients, the WCD group, we're just launching our Kickstart apprentice scheme. So when we bring back staff from furlough and working from home, we'll also have some fresh talent, some young fresh faces to assist in sales, marketing, accounts, warehousing, across all areas of the business. So that's very exciting to have that new energy alongside the existing teams and to augment their resources. We've recently partnered with Gloucester Rugby, and we're working with Forest Green on hydration. So there's some very good health messages there that we're working on. So very busy and exciting times with the WCD group. Pied Piper, my goodness, we never stop still. We're always peddling, we're always raising money, we're always raising the profile of the charity. We've got a cocktail and hot cross bun masterclass in April. I'm planning a sportive with Gloucester Rugby later in the year, but in April we're partnering with Gloucester Keys Rotary to do an online virtual cycle after Easter. So we're always doing something. Walk to Wellbeing is our big June event as well. So please check out. But we're also doing a classic car show at Hynham at the end of June, when we hope people will come back in. It's all open air, walk around the gardens, have a look at classic cars. Fantastic. So lots there. And then with my other hat as vice chair of Cirencester Rugby, we're looking to buy a new marquee, because the night before, our marquee blew away. Well, 21 foot by 10 foot marquee got destroyed in the high winds. So that was critical to us opening the clubhouse on the 12th of April, welcoming our members, our rugby players back into the clubhouse for revenue, and social interaction, which everybody craves. So we're desperately sorting out with the insurance company how we replace that marquee and get it back up again, ready.
And again, you do such a great job keeping those guys in the limelight. Well done, you.
We're
going to go over the punchlines. What's caught your eye in punchline this week? I'm going to start with you, Sam. We literally have a minute and a half to go, so I'm going to rush through you all. Sam, what's caught your eye in this week's punchline?
I'll give you two headlines that I like, because they're both positive, forward-looking things. One, some movement on the Gloucester food dock, as we call it. I've been wondering, I walk past that a lot, and I'm wondering what on earth is going on. Scaffolding has appeared, but someone always told me, when you see scaffolding and when you see cranes, things are looking good. And also you wrote a story about a £30 million full fibre connectivity plan for Cheltenham, which is absolutely vital, because you can't do business without good fibre. And if Cheltenham is to become the cyber capital of the UK, which is what we all hope, it's got to have the best possible broadband. So two stories that made me smile. Thank you, Mark.
Great stuff. Serena, what's caught your eye in punchline this week, please?
So much did they catch me that I printed them off on green paper. So two of them, the two that caught my eye were Tesco helping Gloucester households recycle soft plastic. This was not something that I realised actually. I hadn't really clocked that we weren't properly sending that, recycling that. So I'm delighted that Tesco are doing that in Gloucester. And my other one was that Gloucestershire's 200 speed camera sites have been revealed. Very important, I think, that we know about that. I used to live in Berlin very quickly, and they have an 18-mile-an-hour speed limit on residential roads, and I think that's something that we're going to have to bring in here too.
I used to live in Berlin as well. Anyway,
did you?
I did, yeah. For a long
we'll
time.
have to talk about that, Mark.
3 years. Patrick, what's caught your eye?
Yeah, I think it's a group of things. It's the amount of development that's going on in the county, which is fantastic. Cyber Park mentioned. We saw also on the King's Quarter in Gloucester. I mean, that's colossal, that project. And then Cotswold Dairy was in the news yesterday, I think.
Yep.
Big expansions there. But also, Sam mentioned the food dock. I've got to mention the Outside Inn that's coming in Gloucester as well, which is not far from the food dock, back of the Fleece. That'll be starting next month. But also, there's the St Modwins down at Junction 12. And of course, up at Tewkesbury, there's the new outlet village as well. I mean, huge development, and it can only be a good thing for bringing more people into the county. Fantastic. And
of course, there's Brimscombe Port as well, which is down in Sprout, that way.
You got your 417 and your junctions on the M5. It really is, I can't believe there's a county that has got more going on and more going for it over the next few years in terms of construction. Brilliant.
Totally agree. Kat, one story, please, for Punchline Talks.
One story very close to Cirencester Rugby Club is new owners at Corinium Court Hotel. So looking forward to meeting those guys, because we often walk from the rugby club to Corinium Court for what we call a port in the court.
I'm just going to hold out one story that really caught my eye, because I go there every time that we deliver Punchline. It's Moreton in the Marsh, which I absolutely love. And there's a rumor of a Premier Inn have targeted Moreton in the Marsh, and I just don't hope they get it, I'm afraid. Not that I'm a snob or anything, but Moreton needs to well, I can't figure the right word because I've run out of time. But anyway, thank you ever so much for joining Punchline Talks. Always great to have you guys. See you very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye.